I got fish from the Nigerian prince, like about 10 years ago, like this happened. And then like I got like $900 stolen from my
Oh
PayPal
man.
account. Yeah. And I was a little old school back then. Like I always kept, my money on the DL under my bed. So like I had this PayPal card, and that's that was my debit card. So I was like, all right, like all my $900 is gone, is out of here. So then that which intrigued me, I'm like, how did that happen? How did someone harvest my credentials and stuff like that? So I was doing my bachelor's degree then in information systems, right? Like IT, just regular IT. And then I transitioned to cyber.
What actually got you interested in getting into the tech field? I know you've been in for, what is it, 19 years? 18
Yeah,
years?
now
Yeah,
18
19.
years.
Okay.
Yeah, 18 years now. So yeah, that's a good question. So I'm originally from New York. Probably you guys can tell by my accent. But growing up in New York, I grew up in the streets, grew up doing not so good things. And I saw my family, like my father, my uncles, and everyone, just blue collar. You know what I mean? Like one's a bridge painter, one works in a union, one's a carpenter. Like everyone is like, I always thought, okay, this is, if you have like a plumber job, electrician, you're the man. This is what you need to do. So I came down, not to get too personal, but I had some shit happen back home, and I had to get out of there. So I came down to Florida, and when I was here in Florida, I started working with my uncle. He has an electrical business, so I was an electrician, and from 17 to like 19.
Okay.
And I was like, this is not for me. You know what I mean? And then my uncle's best friend was a nerd. You know what I mean? Like one of his friends back home, he was like, oh, talk to Jay, see if he can get you into this computer world. And I'm like, yo, like Joe, like I'm like telling my uncle, I'm like, that's for the smart kids, dude. Like that's not for me, And make a long story short, like I talked to Jay, I talked to my uncle's friend, and he was like, yeah, just come, there's a bench tech, you can change hard drives out. You don't have to install anything, just do the physical stuff, bench tech. And then he started letting me like install, like this is when like Windows 98 went into ME, Windows Millennium.
Okay.
And so I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. This is way better than working with Uncle Joe. Back then I was getting like, my back would hurt. I would get blisters, digging trenches. And I'm like, I'll sit on this bench all day. So that's how I got into it. And then like, it just snowballed from there. Like it came to me so easy. And I want to let people know, when people say, or when you tell yourself like something's super hard because you feel like the next person, like I work out, right? Like the skinny guinea next to me is not going to compare himself to me because, he can get there. He just has to start, right? So it's all about starting. And once I started the journey, I loved it. I was like, this shit is cool. I'll just like, and I kept on learning. And then Jay was the one that said, anytime you learn something, be reinforced for what you're learning. Go get a certification. Like when I was doing a bench tech, I took the A+, started touching networks, Network Plus. And then, it snowballed from there. So that's how I got into IT.
Yeah, that's dope, man. That's dope. Like, interesting story. And that's why I asked that question, because everybody has different path that they took to get into it, and it's always interesting to hear that. And my story is somewhat similar, because like how you said, oh, that's for the the nerds or whatever. That's how I thought when I was coming up. I was like, I can't do that. I'm not smart enough to do that. You know what I'm saying? It's I'm not the typical person that would be doing that. You know what I'm saying? So I kind of backed away from it until I joined the military. I only played around with computers at home. With my parents had one computer, the family computer. And so that's how I kind of, started messing around with it, taking things apart and, and all that stuff. And so, yeah, I didn't think I could actually get into this field and be successful. And so that's why I always like to hear other people's story, like how they actually got into it. So that's dope.
So how I got into cyber was pretty unique. Again, I go back to, I'm from New York. I have a lot of sneakers. I'm a big sneakerhead.
Okay.
So, oh man, like I have a lot. and so like I used to buy them, sit on them and flip them,
Yeah.
And if people don't know what that means, I'll just buy a pair of sneakers. I'll like hold on to them for a month or two, when all of them, or for example, the Jordan 11s are always the hottest sneaker.
Yeah.
And
always come out around Christmas time.
Exactly. Like I always bought two. You know, I would bring someone with me because sometimes, like, if you're going like Foot Locker or Finish Line or whatever these stores are, usually they have one per person. So I'll just like, if I can't find someone, I'll throw someone a couple of dollars, stand behind me. If I can, like, you know, get me a pair and I'll shoot you some stuff. And so, yeah, and then I used to sell them on, you know, on eBay. And then eBay back then, you know, didn't connect directly to your bank account like it does now. It used to connect to PayPal.
Yep.
So, you know, I got fish from the Nigerian prince, you know, like about 10 years ago, like this happened. And then like I got like $900 stolen from my PayPal account. Yeah. And I was a little old school back then. Like I always kept, you know, my money on the DL under my bed. So like I had this PayPal card, and that's what I was my debit card. So I was like, all right, like all my $900 is gone, is out of here. So then that which intrigued me, I'm like, how did that happen? How did someone harvest my credentials and stuff like that? So I was doing my bachelor's degree then in information systems, right? Like IT, just regular IT. And then I transitioned to cyber, and that goes down that, you know, that path. And whatever questions you have, we'll go down that.
Yeah.
So
that's dope. That's interesting. Yeah. That, like, I've heard of that happening, you know what I'm saying? And then also, yeah, I used to be the one of the people you probably selling those shoes to, because I was always away, so never near where I could go to a Foot Locker or something to get them when they released, and so I was always buying them at a, you know, uprated price off eBay. So you probably sold me a pair. But nah, yeah, that reminds me of a guy I worked with. He was trying to buy a bike, and he spent a bunch of it. Well, he sent them Western Union them the money. And and lost it all. So that's sorry that happened to you, man. But hey, that was motivation to get you into the field. That's dope, though.
Exactly. And that was my story to get into cyber, you know? Yeah, I'm super grateful. You know, it's a bummer that it happened. Yeah, I got my money back, but it was just a principle, and I was like I'm gonna take this, you know, this fuel and keep pushing.
Yeah.